Hello, and welcome back to the Bright Light Wellness YouTube channel and also the Healing with Homeopathy Substack. Today, I want to talk to you guys about miasms and what is a miasm. This is a really big topic, and I'm planning on making a course on miasms. Not ready yet. It's just something I'm going to be working on this fall. I really want to talk about miasms more and help you guys understand them. And I'm also going to be deep diving them into miasms on my Healing with Homeopathy Substack. I'm going to be diving into each one of those and giving it, a lot of good insight on them. So that's my project for this fall. But I really want to talk about miasms today and just kind of give you like a little bit of a taste and an overview and kind of get you guys juices flowing and thinking about miasms and what they actually mean. So if you've never heard of the word miasm, okay, it's kind of like energetic blueprints that we're born with. Like it's almost like the homeopathic version of genetic predisposition, basically. So it's these energetic blueprints that we're born with. We're all born with different blueprints on us. And some homeopaths will call them like taints, like in our system. And these blueprints can become activated or not, like these genetic predispositions within us can become activated in us based off of different like triggers in our environment, whether that's mental, emotional, whether it's physical triggers, shock, trauma, grief, we're talking about jabs, we're talking about antibiotics, we're talking about steroids, pharmaceutical use, we're talking about divorce, we're talking about, being made fun of, like any kind of trigger can turn on these genetic predispositions, removal of an organ, like there's so many things, right? They get turned on. Our genetics get triggered through epigenetics, through our lifestyle, through our experiences. And homeopaths can use remedies, like if it's like a shock or a grief, we can go in and give a remedy that would support shock and grief, right? To turn that genetic predisposition off. But the reason why we're susceptible to these diseases from our blueprint is because of miasms. The miasm is what makes us have the susceptibility because we have the miasm, because we have the susceptibility. That's why we have these genetic energetic imprints or these blueprints that we're born with, right? And that's like the code to like turn on these epigenetics. I hope that made sense, right? So it's like we're all born with these miasms in us, these genetic predispositions to disease, and they get turned on due to lifestyle factors that happen in our life, due to life experiences that are stressors in our life, big stressors, okay, that can turn on these genetic predispositions, okay? Um, and homeopaths when homeopaths first started like understanding genetic predispositions or these blueprints that turn on disease and like which one is within us, we look for like they had originally found 3 miasms. Now there seems to be 5 miasms, and I think that we're going to continually have more. I propose 2 more, so I propose 7 miasms. And the thing is here is that they don't have to be activated, but in most cases, due to the fact that we are handed all the baggage, right, from our parents, grandparents, great grandparents, and so on and so forth, right? And we're handed all of that. Most of us have the miasms. Most of us have a lot of miasms to handle and a lot of miasms to deal with, okay? And that's just the reality of of nature, and how we've progressed as a population and how we've become weaker and more susceptible due to continuation of using suppressive medications, right? And suppressing our emotions and suppressing our system. Okay, we're weaker and weaker instead of stronger and stronger, which is the unfortunate truth. That's why you see diseases starting earlier and earlier, like anxiety and ADHD and autism and pans and pandas, explosions of all these things because we become weaker and weaker. In fact, I was just trying to explain to my nephew the other day, it's like kids used to get measles, mumps, rubella, right? Like all these kinds of like, you know, immune system disorders. They're not immune system disorders, excuse me. Autoimmunity is rampant now too, but we used to get these short-term acute illnesses, right? But we squashed them away and we traded it for like autism and ADD and, pans and pandas and autoimmunity and all these things, because when we have the absence of acute disease, we then have chronic disease. And why that is because we keep turning off the immune system, telling them it's wrong, it's bad, the immune system to stop working, and it becomes weaker and weaker over time. And, this system, is just, we squelched out these acute diseases. Those acute diseases are like a workout for our immune system. It's how the immune system gets stronger and up levels. And when we don't have acutes to help us do that, then we just have chronic disease. That's how we're cleaning up the mess, right? Chickenpox is one way we're like detoxing our body. So, anyway, that was a side note and a tangent. My point is that we all likely have many of these miasms in our blueprint that can become activated at any time. And as a good homeopath, I'm always trying to look for which miasm is actually activated right now, which is the one that's the most activated. I'm always trying to like figure that out within my clients. I'm like, is this psoric? Is this sycotic? Is this syphilitic? Is this carcinosin? Is this tubercular? I'm looking for that. And many times it's a combination, but I'm also looking for like which one is the most active, right? As well. So let's just go over, hopefully you're understanding what a miasm is. It's this energetic blueprint that we're born with that can turn on disease. All right. It's like a genetic predisposition, and it can be activated by triggers in our environment. So that's in the physical, mental, or emotional level. One of the, any trigger can do it. You fall and have a concussion, you have your parents go through a divorce, or you remove your thyroid. Like all of these things could turn into a genetic predisposition to disease. Okay. Or you have a big grief, or you have a loss, or you fall in the lake. There's so many factors, so many different things. Okay, so then we have, like I said, these miasms. The first original miasm is So the first original miasm was Psoric. Okay. And I'm not going to go into what Psoric means or any of these miasms, but that's the first original miasm. Okay. Sorry about that. I get phone calls on my computer sometimes in the middle of recording. So Psoric is the main original miasm. Okay. And if you have any other, you can't have any other miasm unless you also have Psoric. Okay. So Psoric is at the top of the pyramid, the very top of the miasms. Everybody has Psoric. Okay. And you can look to see if that's activating your clients through different ways. Okay. But everybody has this psoric. It's at the top of the pyramid. Okay. It's the first miasm. It comes from actually the suppression of scabies. Okay. So it comes from this uncleansing, like we're not clean, we're cleansiness. So you'll see fear of germs in psoric. You'll see fear of infection. You can see, total, like one way or the other, like really, really clean or really not clean. Like you can see like the pendulum can swing both ways. Like I'm really super obsessed with being clean, or I'm like super not, like I don't care at all about being clean. Like, so they can be like germaphobes, or they can be like super disgusting. There also could be like I don't want to say disgusting, but like not cleanly, like can be not cleanly. They can also, be hoarders, because the psoric miasm has this. I'll go into this more in depth, but the psoric miasm has this like not enoughness, like this fear of poverty, but also like not enoughness, and I've got to hold on to everything. So you'll see this, like these people who don't want to let go of anything, they want to hold on to everything, because the psoric miasm comes from a very much of a lacking. There's a big lack in psoric. Okay. And the energy of psoric is lacking. The energy of psoric is this thing of germs and infections and cleanliness, and all of this. This is all very, very predominant in the psoric. So yeah, I'm not going to go into psoric too much more, but it comes from the suppression of scabies. Now, people will ask about like germ theory and homeopaths and perceptions and contagion, and it's all very interesting. I mean, I think Hahnemann did really believe in contagion, but I think, in my opinion, as a homeopath, like what do I believe is that it really is not coming from the actual, scabies, the miasm. It's coming from the suppression and the way that we dealt with it, and the way that we didn't support the energy, right? Not even just in the individual, but as a collective. The energy of the collective, because we're all one, has now come down to us. That's how I view it. So first one is your Psoric. Of course, in Psoric, you're going to see a lot of skin affections. It's scabies is the, which is Serinum is the main remedy for this, but don't give Serinum. That's scabies. Serinum is actually scabies. And I can talk about that remedy when I go over the psoric miasm. I'll talk about, when I go over the psoric miasm, I'll go over the scabies remedy also and what that picture looks like. But you don't want to just give it, because many remedies, any remedy can cover a miasm. There are many remedies that can cover the psoric miasm. Okay, so we want to give the one that's indicated, that's going to resonate with the person. You don't want to just give scabies. You don't want to give scabies, which is the Serinum. You don't want to just give that. But yeah, it's going to affect the skin greatly. So when the skin is affected, a lot of time, if the skin is affected, psoric is always manifesting. Okay, any disease is going to have a psoric is going to be playing a role. Any disease. Okay, that miasm is there because it's like the father of all the other diseases, according to Hahnemann. So then you have, after psoric, you're going to have two other miasms, which is the syphilitic and the sycotic. Those are the next two miasms. Okay, and we can talk about a little bit about each of them in a small range, but in order to have syphilitic or sycotic, you must have psoric. Okay. So Sycotic comes from the suppression of gonorrhea. Metarhinum, which is the suppression of gonorrhea, is the main remedy for this miasm. Doesn't mean that there are tons of other remedies that can support this. The psoric miasm has this element of, just a little taste of it, like this element of excess and growth. Okay. I said psoric, I meant sycotic. The sycotic miasm, excuse me, has this element of growths and excess. There's a lot of growths and excess in them. So you're going to see like warts, and you're going to see excess of like mucus and excess of discharges from the body. And they might have like excess in their life. Like everything is done in excess. It's the extremes in excess you think of when you think of the psoric. I mean the sycotic. I'm sorry. You're going to think of the they go to these extremes. They're very it's the element of growth also. It's also the element of summer as well. I think of the element of summer, I think of the element of growth. And that's another way to think of miasms too, is not only think of them in the negative, they have a positive to them too. They're not just this negative thing. There's a positive to this element as well. So that is I'll go into more of these when I go into separate videos on these. This is just like a little bit of a touch. But the sycotic miasm is going to have, it's going to also affect the urogenitalia area greatly. It affects that area, right? Because it's coming from the suppression of gonorrhea. So it's greatly going to affect that. And it's the element of growth. So there's extra growths, there's extra, warts on the body. There's the element of growth and the element of excess where they doesn't belong. So that's the little taste of the sycotic miasm. On the mental emotional, they can be kind of these people who go to extremes. Okay. Lots of extremes. Syphilitic now, which is, from syphilis, suppression of syphilis. So now we've got sycotic and syphilitic and psoric. So again, to have syphilitic, you have to have the psoric. So syphilitic is like, it's the darkness, where sycotic is like the light. I think of syphilitic as like the darkness. Sycotic is like the summer. Syphilitic is like the winter. It's the destruction. Okay. It's the destructive miasm. It's the self-destructive miasm. So the body is, I almost think of syphilitic as a little bit more of a dangerous miasm. But it's, got to look at it from the positive spin as well, because that darkness is going to bring you to the opportunity of expansion, right? Because after the winter comes the summer, right? And after the darkness comes the light. So people will go in and out of miasms, of course, too, that are predominant in their life. So the syphilitic is this, it comes from the suppression of syphilis. but it's also this very self-destructive behavior in this miasm, very self-destructive. And the body is also self-destructing. So it's very deep. It can be deeper chronic disease states. And self-destructive behavior can be like eating disorders or suicidal tendencies, or just you can have your extreme OCD, ADD. You can have ADD in psychotic also as well, very strong in psychotic. But the syphilitic is more of this self-destructive behavior where you're gonna, like, the psychotic is not probably gonna commit suicide, but the syphilitic might. Very, self-harm syphilitic. These kinds of things, these kinds of behaviors on the mental emotional, they have a very strong despair of recovery. Syphilitic people, very strong despair of recovery. There's a lot of more pains at night, where psychotic is more daytime pain, syphilitic is more nighttime pain. I'm really liking this yin and yang I'm giving with you guys. Syphilitic is these pains at night, these really deep despair places, these really deep destructive chronic disease states. That's syphilitic. The body is really breaking down. Like, think of winter as like the breaking down, the decomposing, where the summer of the psychotic is the growths, right? Like, to the growths are a way that the body's trying to heal it and get out of it, where the syphilitic is like this more internal, deeper, darker vision. That's how I view it. Very interesting, very interesting. I'm just trying to think of anything else I want to talk to you about syphilitic. Worse at night, they have bone pains. It's deep in the body, lots of bone pains, worse at night, very much despair of recovery. They also have fear of germs. They also have these OCD tendencies. Remember, you're always going to have the Psoric that comes from Psoric, but it's in syphilitic. It's like syphilinum, the remedy that is made from syphilis, has chronic hand washing and very, very strong despair of recovery and OCD tendencies. And there's a lot of bone pains at night. Mercury tends to be a very syphilitic remedy. They have bone pains at night, and the night sweats. Like, I'll go into into the remedies that fit under these umbrellas in the course that I'm going to make, and also in the Healing with Homeopathy Substack. But many remedies are trimasmatic. Like, so you think of arsenic amalgam, it's a very syphilitic remedy. They have this despair of recovery. They have the thing with the germs, and they are very self-destructive, right? And so is mercury, a lot of those same symptoms. But any remedy can cover it. Like, any remedy. There's not just any remedy can cover a miasm. Any remedy can reverse the miasm within you. This is such a big topic. Wow. Okay. So then you have your Psoric. Think here's the word Psoric. Put it in your mind, visual. 2 arrows going down. Psychotic, syphilitic. Under these 2 umbrellas, you now have your tubercular miasm and your carcinosin. So without having all 3 miasms, psychotic, syphilitic, and Psoric, you cannot have tubercular or carcinosin. Tubercular is tuberculinum, the tuberculosis disease, tuberculinum, which I really think, giving the TB injection, is causing that miasm to become active in many people. The suppression of that disease, of course, causes that. Because you have to remember, these germs are energy. They hold an energy, and then the suppression of that and that energy, that frequency, is what we're really talking about. The frequency of said contagion. It's not really a contagion, but it's the frequency of that said distortion in energy. It's like the frequency of the distortion of energy, if that makes sense. Okay, so now you have the tubercular and the carcinosin. Carcinosin is cancer, and the tubercular is tuberculosis. Okay, so we're not going to go into too much about a tubercular today. I will go deeply into this remedy, but it has components of a lot of all 3 of the remedies, all 3 of the other miasms, and I think I won't go into that too much today, because I think it's just too much information, but it definitely has components of the other 3, because you can't have the tubercular without the other 3. And then the carcinosin, which is cancer, okay, obviously has the component of all three as well. And, I see the carcinosin, the growths is the Sycotic for sure, depending on the area, but it's also syphilitic, right? Because it's also this destruction in the body that's happening. And depending on where it's located, so you can see all of these different components. And the tubercular, you can also kind of see these poor assimilation, the poor immune function in that, where they cannot, they're always sick. It hits the lungs very deeply. They have this desire for freedom and desire for, they're never satisfied. They're just always desiring something more. Very, very interesting remedy. I can't wait to dive into you guys with these remedies. I feel like I'm giving you too much information. That's why I'm kind of trying to contain myself on this a little bit. And we'll talk really strongly about carcinosin. Now, I want to just mention, so look for videos on Psoric. These will not be on my YouTube. They will be on my Healing with Homeopathy Substack and in a course upcoming course that I'm making. But look for videos on Psoric if you're a paid subscriber, Sycotic, Syphilitic, Tubercular, and carcinosin. I will make separate videos on that. But then I also want to make a separate video on strep, because I think strep is a new miasm, and strep is coming from a lot of lack. There's a lot of lack in strep, a lot of unable to speak your truth. Very interesting, very interesting. And I think because we've kept suppressing this energy, that it's going to keep coming out in us. Everything is a spiral in healing, right? And we're all one. And with these, because we suppress it, it's just going to keep coming back in the spiral and back in the spiral and back in the spiral until we release it. Or until we bring it back to balance as a collective, I should say. And then the other one, I think that we cannot, there's no way it cannot be a miasm because of what we've all been through, is the C19. So I think that is going to be a new miasm, and I will do a video on all of these things for my paid subscribers on the Healing with Homeopathy Substack. And I will put this all into a course as well this fall, probably be available in the spring by the time I'm done. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. So that's what we're at with miasms. I hope you got a little bit of a taste of them. They are this energetic blueprint that we are born with, okay? And this energy is what turns on our genetic predispositions to disease. And they can be brought on by anything in our, certain stressors in our environment. But we can use homeopathy to turn off these gene expressions or to heal the miasm. We are healing the miasms. Okay. And the more generation after generation that we use homeopathy, the more these miasms will heal, and the stronger the collective becomes. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. All right. It doesn't mean you have to take the remedy indicated specifically for that miasm or that correlates with it, because any remedy can uproot a miasm. Any remedy. It just has to be the right remedy that matches you, your energy, and your frequency. All right. I hope that was helpful. I hope that was interesting. I know that's like a totally brand new and different, exciting kind of topic, maybe hopefully exciting. So let me know your questions, concerns, thoughts, and I'm here to support you with them. Have a good day.